Well, good morning, everyone. We've had a lot of trouble here this morning, and hope you're having a great day. And it's Facebook. It's not me, okay? So they updated their software, and apparently, at least this morning, weren't able to do our usual podcast at our usual time. But let me just see how many folks are going to join us here and are getting notices that I'm on. This is a little different this morning, but let's try and see. Okay, Nick's on. Ruby wants to join on video. I don't know what that means. Sheila, and we're getting new names here, so I don't know if our regular folks are able to maybe give me some thumbs up if you're regular or whatever, or this is new, but you got to be on our private Facebook group, otherwise you couldn't get it, right? So let me just wait a moment and say hi to Debbie and Sandra, Sheila, and let's see, Shirley. Okay. And it's not scrolling very fast, so maybe I can Gail. And again, like, these are usually names, not all of them, but most of them so far are ones that I don't usually see on my roll call in the morning. Ashley, how are you? Thanks for coming on. It would be great if you would let me know. And I see Chantal and Andre. I know you guys watch all the time. Give me a thumbs up if this is your first time. Maybe just, I don't know if you can even do that. Maureen, how are you? Nice to have you on this morning. Okay. I'm just waiting a minute here just to make sure. Frida. Okay, I recognize that name. And let's see here. Leela, how are you? I recognize that name too. Okay, we got some of our folks on that usually come on. And let me see here. Okay. Well, let me start out, and I was going to talk about, hi Josephine, how are you? I was going to talk about insulin. What's new? I'm always talking about insulin. Okay? But what I wanted to do is sort of bring you three new studies on insulin resistance. Okay? And Ruby, how are you? Mary, how are you? And guys, remember now, okay? What's insulin resistance? Okay? So you know me and my illustrations. I like to use illustrations. For me, it's how I remember things, okay? Insulin is what? A food hormone. You don't need insulin if you don't eat, okay? Its biggest thing is food, okay? And that's why every time you eat, you need insulin. Now, the key, of course, is how much insulin you need. Insulin's primary job is to take sugar, glucose, and all the things that turn to glucose and get them out of your bloodstream. We talked about that yesterday. Out. And insulin's job is to store it. Get it out of blood, store it somewhere else. Okay? That's how it works. Get it out of blood and store it. Got it? Okay. Now, we're finding out, okay, in these three new studies that apart from food, you can develop insulin resistance. Okay, so again, maybe just let me take it one step further. What is insulin resistance? It's when your cells in your body, your muscle cells, your heart cells, your brain cells, your stomach cells, whatever cells in your body, they can't stand the sight of insulin anymore. It comes around too often. Like that pesky neighbor. And they go, would you get out of here? Get lost. Out, out, out. I can't stand you. But it doesn't matter whether the cells can't stand them or not. Insulin has a job to do. And it will just pour out more insulin to do the job. So if you develop insulin resistance, which, by the way, 93% of the population have this condition. 93%. They have what we call metabolic syndrome, which is how your body, metabolic, don't get all uptight about that word. All it means is how your body uses energy. How your body uses food as energy. How does it break it down? Is it storing it all the time instead of burning it? How does it burn it? That's what metabolic syndrome is, okay? And it's all due to food, and it's all due to insulin resistance. Now, 3 new studies that aggravate or even can cause on their own insulin resistance without eating. This is significant, guys. Okay? This is significant. How can you get insulin resistance without being a carboholic? It can happen. Interesting. You can take, this is the first study. You can take a perfectly healthy individual, a good eater, no insulin resistance, put them in a stressful environment, prolonged, cortisol, and they can develop insulin resistance. Can you imagine? So apart from eating, if you're in stress, major stress for a period of time, your body's made for stress, okay? You have organs dedicated to stress. They're called your adrenals on top of kidneys. Those are normal, okay? Those are normal, but it's not meant to last. So, this study looked at people who had no insulin resistance. Their cells were working perfectly fine. They had no sign of metabolic syndrome at all. Then they were put into a stressful situation, measured again, over a period of time. They developed insulin resistance. Isn't that crazy? Cortisol. Cortisol is your friend if someone scares you. You're in a dark alley, you're walking to your car, and you hear footsteps behind you. Cortisol is your friend. It's the fight or flight, and you run or you turn around and start fighting. I would run. Okay, even at my age. Okay, so that's normal. Cortisol's your friend. But it's not your friend if it lasts. It's not your friend if it stays around. Because there's a lot of things it does. It pours gasoline on inflammation But what we didn't know is that it can literally turn a person insulin resistant. And if you don't fix that, that can lead to metabolic syndrome. It's the start of it. And it can change your triglycerides and your HDL. It can create inflammation in the body. It can do a lot of things on metabolic syndrome. So isn't that interesting what stress does, right? What stress does. Now, what is a low-hanging fruit? A low-hanging fruit to help cortisol. You know what it's called? Sleep. Sleep helps. You get a good night's sleep and your cortisol goes right down. You know what the problem in the world is today? About 70% or more have trouble sleeping. They don't get a good night's sleep. You know how common that is? Now look, that insomnia has been around as long as man has been around. Okay? But it's worse today than ever because there's so much stress. And when your cortisol is high, you don't sleep properly. If you don't sleep properly, your cortisol is high. It's a vicious cycle. And cortisol, again, pours gasoline on everything. It doesn't necessarily start the fire, but it pours gasoline on the fire. Isn't that an interesting study? You take a healthy person and they go through a severe trauma or stress, changes big time. And again, like the low-hanging fruit is if you can sleep, if you can get a good night's sleep, that helps. So I always tell people, look, what you do during the day is really going to make a difference on how you sleep. What? What you do during the day is going to make a big difference on how you sleep. That's why I always talk about your pineal gland. That's your third eye. And there, it produces melatonin. When you see the sun. Okay? When you see the sun, get out in the sun. Why do you think you feel better? In the sun. Right? So, remember that. To help you get a good night's sleep, start your day. When it's sunny out, get sun. Get outside. Okay? Bright day goes in through your eyeballs and to the third eye, your pineal gland, and you produce a lot more melatonin. People ask me almost every day, Doc, can you help me sleep? And often the other question is, what about melatonin as a supplement? I'm not that big on that. Again, you know, sometimes I argue with doctors because they say, well, you know, what is research showing? Well, I like to refer to me as a clinician, okay? And I'm not a researcher per se, but I am a clinician. I was a clinician for a lot of years. And you know what? You think I didn't hear about melatonin? Of course I heard about melatonin. Of course I tried melatonin with my patients with very mixed results. Wasn't that happy about it because if it did work at the start, it usually had a shelf life on how long it would work. You were much better, in my opinion, to let your body make melatonin. Your body makes melatonin. And it especially makes it when during the day you get sunlight, viderma. Sunlight You know, what did John Denver sing? Sunshine on my shoulders make me happy. Okay? And sun in my eyes make me cry. Is that, I don't know if that's true or not. Is that exactly how it goes? Am I just making that up? No, I listen. It's important. Sleep is a low-hanging fruit. So sleep has something to do with insulin resistance. Obviously, if cortisol can cause insulin resistance, and listen, when you're stressed, think about this even for eating. Most people that are stressed, you know what they're looking for? Comfort food. Now they're getting a double whammo. Their cortisol goes up. Their insulin resistance goes up. As insulin resistance goes up, they are looking for comfort foods, and they're going to eat more crappy carbohydrates. And the more crappy carbohydrates they eat, the more insulin resistance they create. Man, oh man, what a vicious cycle. What a vicious cycle. So that's one. That was a study that came out recently. Take a perfectly healthy person, put them in the furnace, put them under fire, high stress, and they can develop insulin resistance at the cellular level. Okay? So you got to try and fix that. If you're under stress, understand how your body operates. Number 2, this came out in the last few days. Statins, brand new. What is statins? Statins is a classification of medication that lowers cholesterol. Now, you want to give me a migraine? Talk to me about cholesterol. Gives me a migraine. Okay? Because there's so much nonsense out there. And I know what, yada, 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 every day, it's cholesterol. Cholesterol's the boogeyman. Cholesterol causes heart disease. Cholesterol, all the time. I hear it every day. But what this study's showing, statin drugs work, by the way. Did you hear what I said? Statin drugs work. They lower your cholesterol. Hello? So what? Be careful what you wish for. Statin drugs do lower LDL cholesterol. Okay? And people get excited about that. Goody goody gumdrops. I just lowered my LDL. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I haven't ever bought it. I never was big on lowering cholesterol. As a matter of fact, I try and get people to elevate their cholesterol. And I know that's difficult. Not so much for you guys, because you watch me all the time. But it's difficult to understand when the whole world is cholesterol crazy. Why do you think statin drugs were the number 1 selling drugs of all time? The Wayne Gretzky of medication. Okay? The Connor McDavid of medication. The number 1 selling med of all time. Lipitor. I'm just going to get sidetracked for a second. What has it done? Has it made a dent in heart disease? Not even a bit. Not even a bit. Heart disease is worse than ever. Because you know me, looking for love in all the wrong places. Anyway, let's get back to the study. The study shows people that take statin drugs develop insulin resistance. Wow. You don't want to develop insulin resistance. You want to be insulin sensitive. You don't want a lot of insulin. You want to have a little bit of insulin in your life. And this is the connection that they finally seen. Because I said this 20 years ago on radio. More than that. Statin drugs lower cholesterol, but cause diabetes. And it was always that was always a controversial statement. But I was looking at research 20 years ago, especially women taking statins. They were much more susceptible to becoming diabetics afterwards. But now they're showing why. Insulin resistance. Your cells develop like a coating. And your cells don't like the presence of insulin. And it doesn't matter whether they like it or not. Insulin will keep coming, and it will just, let me use another illustration, okay? See this pen? I've used this 10,000 times over the years. Take out a ballpoint pen. See that? That's about the size of your pancreas. It's no bigger than that. And that sits right underneath your stomach. That's your pancreas. Now, for illustration purposes, inside of the pancreas, inside the pen is ink. Inside the pancreas is insulin. Okay? So, insulin, every time you eat, you need a little bit of it. But if you insist on eating carbs that turn to sugars rapidly, and most people do, obviously, 93% of the population have trouble with food. They use way too much insulin. Well, think of this pen, okay? Now, it's got a lot of ink. I don't know if you can see that or not. Okay? Because this is a brand new pen, and I'm very fussy with my pens. Ask the girls who used to work with me at the office. Don't touch my pen. This is my pen. I like my pen. I like to write, and I like to write with my pen. Not yours. Mine. Don't touch it. Okay. That was me. No. See all the ink in here? Take this to another level. This would be a person, pretend this is your pancreas, that doesn't eat a lot of carbs. They got lots of insulin. They don't use it much. It's going to last. Their pancreas is going to last forever. Insulin resistance is now you need a lot of insulin to leave the pancreas, a lot of ink to leave the pen, and you're going to run out. That's what diabetes is, my friend. Diabetes is when insulin doesn't work. And it always starts with insulin resistance. Always. Somebody asked me the other day, Dr. Martin, what about fruit? Okay, what about fruit? Why do I call fruit God's candies? Why do I do that? Well, because we live in a different world today. Some say that fruit is a lot sweeter than it used to be. Yeah, probably, but that's not even what I think about. All I know is if you're upside down, if you suffer from insulin resistance, I wouldn't eat a lot of fruit. I know they're God's candies, but don't live on fruit. And do you think I don't like fruit? I love fruit. But fruit don't like me. So you got to be careful. It doesn't mean I never have any. All I'm saying is, if you have insulin resistance, we live in a different world, and we're consuming 200 pounds of sugar each a year. Now, I don't, and I hope you don't, but that's the average in North America. 200 pounds. It's a dump truck load. Plus, high fructose corn syrup is the worst of sugars. We live in that world today, my friend. That's why people, they can't understand the reset in some way. Dr. Martin, how am I going to live without fruit? Well, you can for 30 days if you want to refill your pen. Get the illustration? If you want to fix insulin resistance. So, cortisol, stress. Ooh. It's hard on a lot of things, but now we know it even makes your cells insulin resistant. Statin drugs. Insulin resistant. Statin drugs. Okay? Your cells don't like it. And they create insulin resistance just by taking the medication. Oh, Dr. Martin, but my cholesterol went down. I'm sorry. I'm not impressed by that. You can't impress me with low cholesterol. I don't want low cholesterol. I want low triglycerides and high cholesterol. What? You heard it. I want low triglycerides because that's the bad lipids. Okay? Number 3, let me finish with this. Okay? Inflammation. Isn't it interesting? This study looked at people with rheumatoid arthritis. And when they checked their insulin, they were insulin resistant. People with autoimmune disease, what comes first? The chicken or the egg? According to this study, the chicken comes first. That is the arthritis or the autoimmune, rheumatoid, MS, Parkinson, Sjogren's, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, eczema, psoriasis. They're all autoimmune, all caused by leaky gut. And that makes your cells in your body insulin resistant. Holy moly. You learn something every day. And this is one of the reasons that the reset is so good for you. Because even if you have autoimmune, it's good for you. You're lowering your insulin resistance. You're preserving your pen. Do you like that illustration? Okay. Sometimes people think I'm silly. But that's the way my mind operates. I need illustrations in my head. Okay? When I think of a pancreas, I think of a pen. How crazy is that? But that's me. I'm crazy. I know. You guys think I'm crazy. Hey, guys. Okay. Guys, I want to apologize. Believe you me, okay? Usually, when there's technical difficulties, it's my fault. Because I don't know how to do anything. Okay? I don't know how to do anything to fix anything. Okay? Like, technically, where's my grandchildren when I need them? Okay? But apparently there was a glitch, and it was Facebook this morning, not me. Okay? And what I did, and Brandy suggested it, that I go right through our private Facebook group and do it live right there. I usually don't. I have an app on my phone that I can go to. But it wasn't working today. It was a Facebook app that I have, not the Facebook page that I'm on right now. Anyways, Vince says you're forgiven. Thank you, Vince. I do apologize, Okay, we hate. I was all gunged up and ready to go at 8:30 this morning. Okay, guys, I'm breathing. We love you. We'll talk to you soon.